The highway stretches like an endless memory through Nebraska's forgotten landscape, where silence speaks volumes and memories drift like wind-blown prairie grass. Frank Reese drives his semi-truck with hands that have witnessed decades of solitude, each callous finger tracing invisible lines of unresolved narrative across the steering wheel. This isn't merely a route. It's a pilgrimage of redemption, a journey where landscape and personal history converge in profound, unexpected ways. The abandoned roadside diner emerges like a weathered sentinel, its faded paint and crumbling structure holding secrets that have waited generations to be understood. 30 years of unspoken emotion reside in these miles, carried within the rhythmic pulse of diesel engine and worn asphalt. Frank's eyes, steel gray and reflective, scan the horizon where memory blends seamlessly with present reality, creating a landscape of emotional complexity that transcends simple geographical boundaries. Each mile marker becomes a witness, each passing mile a subtle testament to human resilience and the transformative power of a single moment of compassion. The truck moves forward, not just as a vehicle of transportation, but as a vessel of profound personal reckoning. The diner represents more than architectural decay. It is a living archive of human experience, a repository of forgotten stories etched into its crumbling walls and dust-covered windows. Frank understands that some places hold memories more persistently than human minds, preserving emotional narratives with an almost supernatural precision. This particular stretch of highway has been his unintentional confessional, a route that has witnessed his internal struggles and silent reconciliations. Decades of trucking have taught him that roads are more than connective infrastructure. They are living narratives, breathing with the collective experiences of those who traverse them. The landscape around him becomes a metaphorical canvas, where personal history is painted in broad, sweeping strokes of muted colors, browns, grays, and the soft amber of distant memory. Each passing mile feels weighted with significance, as though the very earth beneath his wheels understands the journey's deeper meaning. 30 years ago, a single moment of unexpected kindness had transformed Frank's understanding of human connection. A stranger's compassionate gesture, brief yet profound, had planted a seed of redemption that would slowly germinate through decades of solitary travel. That moment, crystalline in its simplicity, had occurred right here, at this very diner, when the world seemed suspended between mercy and judgment. Frank remembers how a cup of coffee, offered without expectation or judgment, had become a lifeline during his darkest moment. The anonymous kindness had been more than a mere transaction. It was a spiritual intervention that would reshape his entire perception of humanity. Such moments are rare, fragile intersections where individual stories briefly touch, creating ripples of transformation that extend far beyond their immediate context. The highway bears witness to these subtle yet powerful exchanges, recording them in its weathered surface like an ancient, living manuscript. Trucking had always been more than a profession for Frank. It was a form of continuous meditation, a way of processing life's complexities through constant movement. The semi-truck became his sanctuary, a mobile confessional where internal dialogues could unfold without external interruption. Each mile represented a potential for healing, each journey an opportunity for quiet introspection. The rhythmic hum of the engine matched his heartbeat, creating a symbiotic relationship between man and machine that transcended mechanical functionality. Long-haul trucking demands a particular kind of emotional resilience, an ability to sit with solitude, to navigate both external landscapes and internal terrains with equal skill and patience. Frank had mastered this art over decades, transforming potential loneliness into a rich, contemplative experience that most would never understand. The abandoned diner stands as a testament to forgotten American narratives, those small, intimate stories that rarely make headlines but fundamentally shape human experience. Its weathered structure tells a complex tale of economic shifts, personal struggles, and the persistent hope that resides in seemingly desolate spaces. Frank sees beyond the physical decay, recognizing the building's spiritual essence, a container of collective memory, a silent keeper of untold stories. Rural Nebraska understands these narratives intimately, having witnessed generations of human resilience emerging from seemingly inhospitable environments. The diner represents more than architectural history. It is a living metaphor for human endurance, for the capacity to remain standing despite overwhelming challenges. Its crumbling walls speak of persistence, of quiet dignity that refuses to be erased by time or circumstance. Memory works in mysterious ways, Frank reflects, understanding that healing is rarely a linear process. Some wounds require decades of silent processing, of gradual acceptance that cannot be rushed or artificially manipulated. His own journey of reconciliation had been precisely this, a slow, almost imperceptible transformation occurring through continuous movement, through bearing witness to life's complex narratives. The highway had been his primary therapist, its endless miles offering a form of meditative space where internal conflicts could be examined without immediate resolution. Each journey added another layer of understanding, another nuanced perspective on his past experiences. The truck became more than a vehicle. It was a mobile sanctuary where personal history could be respectfully examined, where painful memories could be acknowledged without being consumed. The approaching diner carries an almost magnetic presence, drawing Frank into its unresolved narrative. He understands that some places hold emotional energy more potently than human memory, preserving experiences with a precision that transcends individual perception. This specific location had been a pivotal moment in his life, a crossroads where compassion had unexpectedly intersected with personal struggle. The landscape around him seems to breathe with anticipation, as though the very earth understands the significance of his return. Decades of unspoken emotion reside in these miles, carried within the rhythmic pulse of his journey. Frank's approach feels ritualistic, a pilgrimage toward understanding and potential redemption. Trucking culture represents a unique American narrative, a world of solitary travelers who serve as modern-day nomadic storytellers, carrying fragments of human experience across vast geographical and emotional landscapes. Frank embodies this tradition, understanding that his profession is more than transportation. It is a form of cultural preservation. Each mile traveled connects disparate human experiences, creating invisible networks of understanding that transcend geographical and social boundaries. The highway becomes a metaphorical thread weaving together individual stories, allowing moments of profound connection to emerge in the most unexpected contexts. His semi-truck is not just a vehicle of commerce, but a mobile archive of human experience, collecting and preserving narratives that might otherwise remain unacknowledged. The moment of recognition approaches with a quiet intensity that defies simple description. Frank understands that some encounters transcend verbal communication, existing in a realm of pure emotional resonance. The diner, with its weathered structure, becomes a symbolic container of unresolved history, both personal and collective. Its crumbling walls seem to whisper stories of resilience, a quiet human dignity that persists despite external decay. The landscape around him transforms from mere geographical space into an emotional terrain where past and present coexist with remarkable fluidity. Each mile traveled feels like a deliberate step toward understanding, toward a form of redemption that cannot be articulated through conventional language. As the diner grows larger in his windshield, Frank realizes that some journeys are not about physical destination, but about internal transformation. The highway has been his primary teacher, offering lessons in patience, compassion, and the profound interconnectedness of human experience. His hands, once instruments of survival, now tremble with the weight of a promise made decades ago. A promise of compassion that would ultimately define his humanity more profoundly than any mile traveled. The Nebraska landscape unfolds like a canvas of quiet revelation, where loneliness meets connection, and where the most profound stories are often told in the spaces between words, in the gentle breath of understanding that connects strangers across time and circumstance. The dust-laden highway stretched like a faded memory across Nebraska's endless plains, where silence speaks louder than words. Jack Reardon's withered hands gripped the steering wheel of his decades-old Peterbilt truck, his weathered face reflecting stories untold and miles unraveled. It was just another twilight crossing, another anonymous journey through forgotten landscapes where time seemed to pause and breathe. 30 years of long-haul trucking had taught Jack that highways were more than mere connectors between destinations. They were living arteries carrying unspoken human narratives. Most people believe truck drivers are simply transit workers moving cargo, mechanically navigating from point A to point B. But the truth is far more complex, far more human. As the sun dipped below distant cornfields, casting long amber shadows across cracked asphalt, Jack spotted a dilapidated roadside diner, a ghostly silhouette against the approaching darkness. Something about its weathered facade tugged at memories he'd carefully locked away, memories that whispered of a promise made decades ago. The diner stood like a forgotten sentinel, its peeling paint and broken neon sign telling stories of abandonment. Yet Jack saw something different. Where others might see decay, he recognized a profound metaphor for human resilience. Structures that endure despite apparent destruction, holding secrets within their fragile walls. Pulling his truck to the gravel shoulder, Jack hesitated. The diner wasn't just a building. It was a portal to a moment that had defined his entire life's trajectory. 30 years earlier, during a rain-soaked night not unlike this one, something extraordinary had happened at this very location, a moment of unexpected grace that had fundamentally transformed his understanding of human connection. Memory is a curious landscape, Jack knew. It doesn't progress linearly but moves in waves, in echoes, in fragments that resurface when least expected. And this diner was the epicenter of a memory he'd both cherished and feared revisiting. Back in 1987, Jack had been a different man, younger, angrier, carrying wounds from a tumultuous childhood and a failed marriage. His world was defined by rigid boundaries and unresolved resentments. That particular night, exhausted and frustrated, he'd stopped at this same diner, seeking nothing more than coffee and temporary respite. The diner's proprietor then had been Martha Williams, a woman whose gentle demeanor belied profound understanding. She wasn't just serving meals. She was offering sanctuary to weary travelers. When Jack entered that night, carrying his invisible burdens, Martha saw beyond his tough exterior. She recognized a soul in profound pain. Their conversation started simply: a cup of coffee, a slice of homemade apple pie. But gradually, Martha began sharing stories that seemed designed not to entertain, but to heal. She spoke about forgiveness not as a religious concept, but as a deeply human mechanism for personal liberation. What most people misunderstand about forgiveness is that it isn't about absolving the other person's actions. It's about releasing oneself from the emotional prison of perpetual anger.